said anybody wants to ask?
One question.
Yeah?
Is it a Milchemes Mitzvah?
Oh. No. How's that for a short answer?
No. What?
No.
No.
We'll just be able to explain that too, but that's I didn't say that it's not a mitzvah maybe to have a milchama, but it's not a Milchemes Mitzvah. Two things are not related.
Yeah.
So the Rav speak to whether or not this whether or not they have to write.
Should the Rav sit down?
What? Yes, there are.
Perhaps. Okay. All right, I'll maybe address that. I'm not sure if you want to call that a philosophical
So the questions and answers are going to start on side.
A lot of
One side. The best Midrash, thank you very much.
I'm going to try to be as brief as I can on each question. I was just given this one sheet, that's one a little bit beforehand. Two very good questions. I would like to just discuss them simply, without getting too involved, because there's a lot that Mr. Shem could cover tonight. The first question is, how much will we diminish our own joy to connect with the suffering of Klal Yisrael and respect the seriousness of the situation? Question number one. Question number two, if the Torah protects, then why don't we set up yeshivas and army bases in other areas in need of protection? More generally, how does the schus of learning transfer to wherever it's needed? Okay, I'm going to do these two questions, and then we're going to start. I'm going to start with the second question, tell you what the Maharal says, and perhaps from there we'll work our way backwards. The Maharal says, the Gemara in Saita says that Torah, whether the person is learning it presently or not, it's Megin and Matzil. Mitzvahs only at the time that one is involved in them does it have that effectiveness. And the Maharal answers this question. He says, why? No, the Gemara just makes a statement. The Gemara doesn't explain. And the Maharal explains that Torah is done on a different level than time. Mitzvahs are done in the world that is time and place related, and therefore it affects the time and place. But when it's not there, it's gone. Whereas Torah is on a higher spiritual plane where there is no concept of time and place, so therefore it lasts longer. Notice that's incorrect. It's not less longer. It's not time related and place related, and therefore it's Megan and Matzil all around and all over. That's start from over there. Now, whenever a person does any mitzvah, the world becomes, just use it as a mitaher avir. The world becomes a more cleaner, better, productive place. And the best way to make the world better is through Torah. So, just like any mitzvah affects what's happening, Torah is the ultimate. It's the ultimate mitzvah. It's the Keneged Kula mitzvah. So, and not only that, as we said beforehand, it starts from a higher level. It actually can make it happen in a much greater place. Now, place and Torah, we'll get to that in 1 second. I just want to share with you a question which I was asked this week, Yom Kippur Katan. So, a Charus of mine says, I know you don't like to answer these questions, and that's why I'm asking you. Should I say Yom Kippur Katan? The only way for me to say Yom Kippur Katan is to take off of Seder. That's just the way the schedule works out. What's more important? Davening or learning? Okay? So, the answer is yes. Okay? So I told him that the Birkei Yosef in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah says that the Lomdim take time off of learning at this time to learn Musar. In other words, that's like B'diavad. Learning Musar, that's not like really learning. But you have to do that because that's what the time demands. So sometimes it's not a question what's bigger and better. There are certain things which are time sensitive, and this time demands a certain response. And this is echoed in the Rambam and the Ramban. This is the most important I just would like to make a statement about Tehillim that said here right now. For many people, this perhaps is their only tefillah d'oraisa that they ever have. According to many Rishonim, tefillah that we daven 3 times a day is a mitzvah d'Rabbanon. Tefillah b'eis tzara is a chiyuv on everybody else. So it's like that little shir amalis, that diddly that we did, that's not a little diddly, maybe that Shemona Esrei was. But, whatever, a person should be aware of the importance of that situation. And the Rambam says that a person who doesn't daven at this time is an achzor. So davening is extremely important. And it's addressing directly the situation. Torah obviously addresses the situation too, but it's a much more broad spectrum, something making the whole world better. So you have 2 different things that are happening. Now, as far as the place is minor in a certain sense, and I'm just going to tell you a few things. First, do you think that you could learn just as well if you were in Aza? I don't think I could. Just imagine. It's not conducive. So now the question is, so therefore what? So I'm going to share with you 2 questions I was asked this week. This will give a little bit of a feeling. Both of these are, in my opinion, the same question. They came from 2 different places and different mindsets. But in my opinion, both of them, the core issue was the same. One, there's a fellow who's a kohen, and he's the only kohen in his shul, and he carries firearms, and he was asked to daven in a different shul, which is a little bit more of a dangerous neighborhood. The question was, what should he do? That was question number 1. Question number 2 came from somebody who's a Balkaira in a shul in Tel Aviv, and he carries firearms, and they asked him to go and daven in a shul closer to Jaffa because they don't have anybody in that shul that carries firearms, and both they wanted to know what they're supposed to do. These are real questions. I don't make them up. These are questions that exist. So how do we address such an issue? We have to have priorities and understand priorities. So I asked somebody today, I said, what do you think the answer is? So, well, if these people if they're in an unsafe place, so it's a mitzvah. They should do it. So what about davening with kavanah? That's also a mitzvah. What about, if you daven in your shul and that's where you daven, that's your makom kavua, should you forfeit it for somebody else? Is it a mitzvah sheyar shalasai de'acheret? How do we evaluate this? And I said, both of these people, which I don't know the people personally, I said I would like to accuse them of something, though I'm accusing, they can't even stick up for themselves because they have no idea I'm speaking about them. I even know what I'm speaking about. I believe that both of these people feel if they go somewhere to protect people, they're for sure doing something. And doing a mitzvah is a suffix. In other words, if a person is giving a bracha to a tzibur and having to be makayim a mitzvah deraisa and giving them security, that's ruchni security, how does that factor against being a shomer someplace which maybe somebody is going to attack that place? Zeh vadai v'zeh safek. The answer to the question is, and I believe in both of these people situation. Again, I'm painting a picture of the person that could maybe 100% off, that they don't really believe. In other words, if we were to ask the person when he's not paying attention, what do you think helps more, a kapitel tehillim or a hand grenade? Okay, so I wouldn't like that question asked. Let's just leave it like that, okay? But, so we want to do the best. Do we believe that Ruchnis is the best? And if Ruchnis is the best, we have to figure out which is the best Ruchnis, and sometimes not even the best Ruchnis is the right thing to do. It's the appropriate Ruchnis that has to be done. And this one has to be factored out in each individual case. You know, and this fellow, I said to him, if your wife was scared, and she lives in a place, my Chavrusa, every night he's been going into the bomb shelter, if you had to be in America and your wife was scared, do you think I would have to move into your house so to calm your wife down because she has to be there? Is it my mitzvah? Is it not my mitzvah? You have to figure it out. So who says this other kehilas need to have a shomer? I'm not right now discussing whether they need it or not. Is your mitzvah that you have mechuyev to give up your thing? Perhaps. And not only that, perhaps. I'll just leave you with a question. You're going to buy your child tefillin. You're in the store. And the guy says, how much does it cost? You say $1,000. You peel off 10 hundreds. And you're about to give it to the guy. And somebody else says, wait. He goes up to the proprietor and says, how much are your cheapest pair of tefillin? He says, $500. So walks over to the guy with the $1,000. He says, I'm collecting for soldiers to wear tefillin. Why should your son have muhudr tefillin of $1,000? You get yourself an itty bitty pair for $500, and have another Jew wear another itty bitty pair for $500. So let's carry on. All right. Now let's. No, but there's an answer to the question. But first, you have to realize that these questions exist. It's not a war question. This is in every aspect of our lives. Okay? You don't have money to give tzedakah for Yontif because you have to have the 100 shekel bottle of wine. And I'm speaking b'derech tzanua. Anyways, how much should we do to connect to people suffering? As much as you can and still function. If this becomes your avodah, in my opinion, you have overstepped its purpose. Just like, and I'm going to use this as an example, just like people ask me, should I fast on Bahab? Should I fast right now? The Bahab of right now. So I said, will it affect your learning? We feel good when we do things that we can quantify. That is incorrect. We are supposed to be believers. Now, sometimes it's good to do things that you can quantify because we need to have ourselves feel good. Right? Even the millionaire, he keeps a few $1,000s in his pocket. It still feels good, even though it's only a drop in the bucket. How do I know? A good question. So, anyways, I'm going to go on to, just from these papers, then we'll go to the questions over here, through some of these things. All right. Arabs murder Jews. We fight back to protect ourselves, and there are large, often violent protests against Israel around the world. Is there anything that can be done to change this narrative? No. Now, does that mean that you should or shouldn't do it? That's another question. In other words, we do not like to stick it to Goyim. But we also have to do what we have to do. So, if we're in a situation that we're being destroyed from our neighbors around us, so self-defense demands that we respond. And too bad what the world has to say. There's no choice. It's a question of survival. Now, I'll just add to this. There's a fascinating thing. I said this over once in shul. I said this kind of a gathering, and again, I like lumdis. So I'm telling you right now a lumdish thing. I have a friend of mine who's a yekka in every single fiber of his body. He comes from Switzerland, and he says, yeah, but I used to go to take the train. I always left there 1 minute and 33 seconds beforehand, and I was always on. This is how he lives, really. Now, his father is a rabbi in Switzerland. And he was one time trying to explain to me the Swiss mentality. And the Pashat Emunas Chacham that they have. So I was standing next to my father. He was very nice Yisrael for a piece of time, already a cynical fellow. He's seen the big world. And he says, and this balabas comes over to my father, and he says, I just learned the Gemara. It says about this Amora that was going, and this lady was wearing this dress that was inappropriate, and he ripped the dress off the lady, and then, unfortunately, he found out that she happened to be a guy, and it cost him 400 zus. So he says, I get the whole Gemara, but to rip a dress off a lady, isn't that a chil Hashem? Just think about it. And my father said to him, no, that's what you're supposed to do. And he said, okay. That was the end of the conversation. Anybody want to move to Switzerland? Okay, anyways, now, that's called a person who believes. Now I can even explain it to you. So there's sometimes when you want to know, and I'm going to use this, I'm not going to discuss it, leaving a lot of things open. You want to know if the Jews who went to this demonstration in Washington was a Kiddush Hashem or a Chil Hashem. How do we decide? I will refer you to a Chicago article in the Chicago Tribune when Trump's child married a Jew. I think it was an intermarriage thing, and it said, what a Kiddush Hashem. How do you decide what's a Kiddush Hashem? You have preconceived notions about everything. We have to look into the Torah to find out. So if this is what you're supposed to do, it's a Kiddush Hashem, and you're supposed to do it whether the Goyim like it or lump it, and if it's not what you're supposed to do, you're not supposed to do it whether they consider you a wimp or not. That's the answer to that question. All right. And another question over here, which I'd like to address, because this is relevant to many things, and perhaps part of the reason why some subjects I may not touch on today. My brother-in-law should be well, learned by Rav Hutner for many years, and he asked once Rav Hutner a political question, and he balked, he didn't answer. Now, I knew Rav Hutner, he was a fellow who had an opinion about everything. There was no such thing as somebody that had an opinion on. He didn't want to answer. And my brother-in-law, pressed him, and he said, listen, the reason why Gedolim have Das Torah, it's the same reason why Rabbonim have Siyata D'Shmaya to Paskin HaShayla. It's Negeya, so you have the Siyata D'Shmaya to Paskin properly. And there are zillions of stories about questions that were made up to ask Rabbonim and they answered wrong, because you don't have the Siyata D'Shmaya when it's not Negeya L'Chol HaMaisa. The question you're asking me, my opinion will have absolutely no effect, and therefore my opinion and your opinion are equal. Okay? Now, after having said that, that's true, but it has to be quantified in a certain sense. And still, we have to understand what the rights and wrongs of certain values are.
What about Das Balabatim?
What about Das Balabatim?
Das Balabatim is not going to be the same as the Das of the Gadol.
But what about Das?
About a political opinion.
So I understand. So sometimes they have to speak about, in general, to understand what we're trying to do. And this is, in my base, what you call it, there's a question halacha, and then there's Shmer Shabbos Kochosa. They have to know exactly how to fine-tune it. After you know halacha, you have to know exactly what to do. But first you have to have a general understanding, and I do believe that the Gedolim, even on these issues, have given a very clear understanding of what we're supposed to be doing. Now, exactly how, when, and where, and I'll just use this as an example, which I spoke about this 2 weeks ago here in a smaller thing, when the Chadorim were closed in the beginning of the war, there was nothing said by the Gedolim about whether one is obligated to go into a mamad or not. Do you think they forgot? Or they decided to leave it open? Okay, we'll just leave it at that. You have to understand that there's more to that which a person thinks. All right. Now, I would like to discuss, what are the questions that were asked over here? What? Oh, okay. He asked me a question about, do these people have a right to give away the lives, or possibly give away the lives of some Jews to save others, and to bring the war to a break, to an end, to a, you could figure out whatever you want to put at the end of that sentence, okay?
Even in other words, it's like, it's only for some of the people.
Yeah, I understand. I understand, but I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question in general. a case at point, a very famous case, the Maharm of Rotenberg was put in jail, and they put a high price, and it said, we'll have to die there, and that's the end, and don't get me out, because of what this will cause is an escalation. Okay? It's based on a Gemara. It's not like by saying that's the case, that's the historical case that goes down. So, therefore, we don't negotiate things that will bring to an escalation. That's very simple. Okay? Now, how do we decide what will bring to an escalation? So, I'm fond of saying something which I read once in a secular source. Did you ever notice the people who have all the answers know nothing about the question? And I will just share this with you, and I'm sharing this with you on a totally factual level. Okay, this is very hard for people to divorce themselves from their emotions and what they feel. There's two different things. Gush Katif was given back in order to bring safety. Was it successful or not? How do you know? Do you know what would have happened if they stayed there? There is no way that anybody here could know the answer to that question. In order to know the answer to that question, you have to have both movies playing, one giving it back and one not giving it back. You don't know.
Well, you can't look at the Totzah. The Totzah.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what would have been the Totzah if they were there.
We do know what the situation was when they were there, and
What's
the situation after.
That's what the situation was getting worse. I'm not right now getting. I'm just saying the question is, and not only that. Just I'm talking about that. But let's think about it. We all understand that what happened, and I'm saying this. I said this someplace else. What happened on Simchas Torah this year defies all mathematics. In my opinion, it's equal to the 6-day war, just as great a nes. Just sometimes you have a nes that's a positive one, and sometimes you have a nes that's a negative one. There's no explanation for what happened. You can't say that it was a mess up of Tzahal. There's only so much even they can mess up, right? There's a limit, right? So you're forced to say this is what Hashem wanted, and on that you're going to decide. That you're going to decide about what should happen. I don't know. We can only make decisions with the information that we have at the time. Okay? Now, how far can we project? You have to have an actuary and figure out all the things to come to a conclusion. I don't know. Now, if at the end of the day, the question of who is in charge, do they have a right? So first you have to decide, are they in charge? And do they have a right for anything? Right? So we have to, the answer to that question is based on many things, but I just want to take this small question. Okay? They are not doing anything to anybody. They are just saving people. They are not endangering others. Those people that are, I'm just saying this is one side of the coin. Those people that are captives are captives. Are captives. So the question is, can we save some? We're not throwing anybody into Gaza. So, but the question over here is prudence. Let's skip halacha first, figure out the values, and then we could revisit the question. The problem is, and I'm just speaking out what's the undercurrent over here, which people are just afraid to speak about, the elephant in the room. Nobody believes in this room that this is really going to help. It's all it's going to do is make it worse. So they're endangering, many people feel they're endangering the whole population by saving a few people. No, and this is, again, but that's not the question that you asked, right? That's a different question. Okay, next question. Someone want to ask something else?
Can we go back to if we're in the Mitzvah, Milchemes Mitzvah?
Yeah.
The Rambam's pretty clear.
What does the Maharm say?
Gives a few examples, and one is Vezras Yisrael Mitzar Abal Shabal Leim. This is not a tsar. Like what greater tsar could there possibly be?
That is a perverted translation of Milchemes Mitzvah. If I was in the Warsaw ghetto and wanted to make a uprising, is that a Milchemes Mitzvah? What's that? Is that a Milchemes Mitzvah?
It would have been. Maybe.
So if that's your question,
But
if that's your question, yes, a Milchemes Mitzvah. I apologize. I misunderstood your question.
Why is this not? Why is
One
it
second,
hard
one
to
second.
understand it?
What?
It's a very simple reading of the Rambam.
No. But that's not what you meant by Milchemes Mitzvah.
What does the Rambam mean by those words?
That means that it's a mitzvah to protect yourself. That's all. I don't think there's anybody argue with that.
It's in Hilchos Milchama. It's not. He's talking about right when he talks about getting rid of the seven. I mean, it's the same halacha.
Yeah, that's true, but you see, this is what's called a perversion.
Okay.
That is part of a process.
What,
That Rambam, read those Rambams from the beginning to the end.
we can only have this if we have a
I don't. I said no. Second, I didn't say you can only have this, but that reading is part of a Rambam. That's part of a process. The local issue could be true in a lynching in Warsaw. So that's why I said this is called the perversion of the Rambam.
many people have perverted that Rambam.
I just want to tell you something. And I'm taking you to task, not personally. If this battle, I didn't really check out the war, the Gvulot, would be in the north in a place which is not part of Eretz Yisrael, biblical Eretz Yisrael, would you also call it a Milchemes Mitzvah? I would say yes, you will. So don't quick me that Rambam. I didn't say that wouldn't be a Milchemes Mitzvah. But your subject is we have Jews that are being endangered, and it's a mitzvah to save them from being oppressed and bombed on. Don't put it together with that Rambam that has to do with Eretz Yisrael. It's a different subject. We can go someplace in the Golan Heights. Do I have to check if I take Trumas and Mice over there before I go to war? Answer me. Do I have to check?
I don't know.
I do. You have to go to war too. So, it's nothing to do it. You're confusing two different issues.
Which two issues?
Eretz Yisrael and security of Jews.
I don't believe that Rambam's talking about only Eretz Yisrael.
What?
That Rambam's. No, you're saying the Rambam's only talking about Eretz Yisrael?
No, sir. I said, when you asked me, I'm going back and I'm repeating what I said before. When you asked me, is it a Milchemes Mitzvah? I understood that your subject was part of a Bias Goyal kind of an idea.
No.
Yeah. So, but what? I want to ask a question. Let's take a step back. Lemay nafkamina.
Rambam brings a few.
No, but no. In this situation, where's our difference?
Let's take a step back. Let's say we lived in the times of we had a halachic state. That would be a nafkamina, a theoretical nafkamina.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll be enough kamina. No, this war is not about territory. This war is about security. This war could happen in the Meshulash. It could happen Hashem Yerachem in Yerushalayim. It could happen Hashem Yerachem in Bnei Brak. It could happen anywhere. Zelo kashur to the Rambam you're discussing is discussing Eretz Yisrael. It's discussing so I'm also we're right now discussing a security issue. I don't know why they have to put them all together. Habola hargacha yashkim behargoy. If that's the situation that we're in, then that's what we have to do. Now, the mind afkamina. Yes.
If we move away from the Milchemes Mitzvah for a second,
Yeah.
and we move into the realm of the categorization of the perpetrators, Can we say in others that we have an Indian of a road?
No. No. Roidev is at a very specific time and place. You know, that I cannot, if I see that the guy is planning to make a redifa,
What was the question?
do they have a din of a roidev without the din of milchama?
Cool.
So that all the Arabs that live in Gaza. That's right. That's your question. So the answer to the question is, I don't think so. But it doesn't mean that you don't have, for a security reason, doesn't mean you're not allowed to kill them. The two things have nothing to do with each other. Roidif is a very specific situation at a very specific time, and if you miss that time slot, you missed it. In other words, we all understand. I don't know if this should go on. We all understand that the only difference between as of today, will be politically correct. As of today, with the schooling that the children in Gaza get, the reason why the children aren't members of Hamas and militant is because they're not old enough. But besides for that, there's nothing lacking. They have all the schooling and all the ideology. They're ready to go, right? So they just push it. They don't have the Hechetim, so that's the end. So there's not that doesn't make them a Raidif.
So the Rav is saying.
No, the word Raidif is a very specific.
So with on October
7th.
on October 6th, the people who are going to be planning this
They're not Raidif. No.
still
No.
Might kill them anyways.
but had we known that the attack was coming on the 7th, then wouldn't, in other words, be able to preemptively.
1 second. And what about the 5th?
Preempted anyways without
And what about the 1st? And what about a year and a half ago when this was hatched, the plan? And what about when the grandfathers were born?
So when does the road have a plan?
Oh, so that this halachas has to be in the act. In the act. In the act. You know, Raidif is a very, you picked on a very specific halacha, that's all.
This is right or it's not?
This could be an aftermean if it's a milchama. If we're in a, let's have
Let's say it's a Milchemes Rishus. What's the difference? The Milchemes Rishus is also mutter.
Right, but perhaps the whole din of Rodef doesn't even apply in a milchama.
That's good though. In all Milchemes it doesn't apply.
Yeah.
That's a war has different halachas to it. But that was he was asking
Never
right
doesn't
now.
apply.
He's asking right now, going it at tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning when we are wherever it is that we're going to be, right? Going into Gaza, right? That's what you're talking about when it's peace for a couple days. Yeah.
Could I ask this there? Wouldn't it be proper to say that this is a religious war, a theological war?
What's that? Religious or ideological?
Deal.
Who?
The Muslim world, or they who are they are, and Judaism, and to wipe out Judaism.
Okay.
The man is.
I would like to, I didn't review what I'm saying right now
Okay.
before I say that, but in my understanding of history is that until 1900 or around that, relatively, throughout all of the centuries, the Jews and Muslims lived at peace. This romantic idea that this country belongs to them is a relatively new idea without any basis to it. In other words, check it out. Now, there are those who pervert their religion. Check this out in their books, not mine. In their religion, to say that this is some kind of a mitzvah that they have. Now, even if that would be true, and this new religion metamorphosizes and exists, so they're at a religious war with us, doesn't make us at a religious war with them. We have no special inyan in killing Muslims. We have no religious, well, we're absolutely fine. Let them live peacefully and leave us alone. The only mitzvah that we have in this subject is about Amalek. V'zeu. With only us to kill Goyim, we're not looking to kill Goyim. So we are not having any religious war. We don't have jihad. It's not happening. When Mashiach will come, Amalek, perhaps, but until then not. But they, perhaps, there are those who are disillusioned, not well read. And the same thing happened, we could have this conversation 400 years ago about the church. Now, this is not new, this Amaratzis, Goyish Amaratzis in their own religion. It's not new. So I can't call it a religious war. It's pashut a lot of mistakes going on over here. And it's true. And I'm going to just make a statement, a unilateral statement. There are many segments of society that are brought up with bigotry and preconceived notions that are 100% not true. And we live with those people all around us. And those people who are nebuch, subjects of that people, are miskinim. I have no better words. They're nebuch. But Lamaisa, whether they're nebuch or not, doesn't mean that the guy has his rifle on your back doesn't make him a nebuch, makes him your enemy. I'm not right now discussing the practical aspect. All right.
Well, the land dispute does have religious overtones to it, meaning we believe religiously that this is our land. They believe
one second. I don't know if I believe that. I have a Gemara Mishnah that perhaps says not like that. This land was ours, taken away from us, and will be given back to us. That taina that you're saying, I'm not want to get involved in the whole Jewish thing, sounds sort of like Light's Royim.
What?
Light, his shepherds would graze in other people's field because it's going to be our land. Whether it is our land or not, because the UN made it, I don't think they took Kodesh Baruch Hu's vote.
Didn't we pay for all the land here?
No.
That we live
God
on?
gave us this land.
What?
Chadash gave
Okay.
gave us this land, plain and simple.
What?
We pay, we're always buying from the Arabs.
The JNF, who owns most of the land, you know why they own most of the land? Just tell you a piece of history. To supply the arms for the army in the War of Independence, so the armies did not have enough money. So the JNF, which had a lot of money, cut a deal. If I'm not mistaken, this is historically, you can check it out on Google, and you'll find out this is more or less what happened. Cut a deal that they will be paid with land when the Jews win. So all those people that are on lands of Minhal, that's the history of why those lands belong to the JNF, and those were sold to you. But again, that's a question of kibush. Well, as kibush work, because you bought your property, could be you brought it from a ganav. I have a Brooklyn Bridge that's for sale for those who want to buy it. Okay? Who says it's your land? Whoever sold it to you's land, right? So the question is, does kibush exist or not? So it seems that the country, that the Palestinians aren't aware that there's a musig of kibush, because the world over, it's understood that there's such a thing as kibush, and I haven't seen the United States give back their land to the Indians yet. I haven't seen that happen. I mean, maybe Yogur, Gor Imzev, right? When Mashiach will come, perhaps.
They gave them reservations.
Yeah, they gave them a piece. So we also gave them a piece. Right? What I just said, but with the Israel's legal ability to stand there is based on the UN resolution.
But we don't really care about.
No, I know. No, I didn't say that. I just saying you're asking about our right to be here. Is that from who?
From Avrohom Avinu.
I thought Kosh Baruch Hu threw us out.
Well, wait a
I
minute.
know. Which we get rid of Tisha B'Av? Which get rid of Tisha B'Av? Wow.
And the fact that we're back here is not HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us back here.
What?
We're back here, but my Sinisim that we want some words, that's not HaKadosh Baruch Hu putting us back here.
I don't want to get involved in this subject, Bagadol. Okay? But the Ramban that came here, he wasn't over on the Gimel Shuas. Right? This is a subject. There's not this. Here is about war. It's not about philosophy and what our approach is. So they don't get off field. Our discussion is not on our view on Eretz Yisrael. Our question is about us, how to deal with the word that's here right now. Yes?
Going back to this so-called hostage exchange.
Yeah?
So there was a report today that.
It's not true.
Probably not. That there were several Gedolim who were asked. We know that the religious parties all voted to do the
Okay.
exchange.
No, not all of them.
Not what's my
Otzma Yehudit did not.
Haredi
Everyone
parties,
else did.
Sorry. The Haredi parties all voted for it.
Okay.
And the cheshbon that was given it evidently independently by several Gedolim was Vadai versus a Safek. Right now you have a Vadai people who are in a Sakana,
Okay.
and you have Suffolk attempted murderers who might hurt someone in the future,
Okay.
or might not.
Okay.
And so that it's a very,
Okay.
does the Rav think that's a reasonable calculation?
I can't answer that question because I don't know all the particulars. But I would just share with you, I would like to go back 40 or 45 years in time.
Because the last time that happened didn't work.
What's
out
that?
so good.
This discussion was Bagadol, I'll call it a Machlekes Rav Shach and the Chabadsker Rebbe. If anybody knows history, this is always a question of buying time and saving lives, and perhaps it being more dangerous in the future. Do we do that or not? Right? Now, I'm telling you, I'm just being honest. You scoff because you don't think that we're buying anything, we're selling out. That's a different subject. But the question over here is the philosophy sound? 100%. The question is, can we risk it? I'll just share with you two stories of taxi drivers. One happened tonight, and one happened before the Itnatkut. Before the Itnatkut, I took a ride with a taxi, and I asked him, Mata Choshev? So I said, why? Tzarich la'asot mashu.
What did he say? You said to go out? Or you
Yeah.
said to stay?
Yeah.
Go out.
Why? Tzarich la'asot mashu. So I said to him, according to my definition, l'nasot means that if it doesn't work, we reverse the process and we go back to where we were. Right? So what do you mean l'nasot? No. I don't mean it. Whenever we leave, we're out of there. But perhaps that'll be enough to feed the dragon. So I said, you mean to say that we are running away, and it's a question of how much do we have to give away in order to be safe. But we're not even in negotiation, we're running. I said, yeah. Okay. Tonight, I took a taxi, and it was clear to me that the taxi driver didn't know his way around Yerushalayim. So I asked him, where are you from? He said, from the Tzafon. So I said, what are you doing here? He says, I own a Dira B'Yerusha here at Yerushalayim, and as soon as the war started up there, as soon as self-defense started in the north, so I left my family, and he gave me all these jobs. He's a college graduate, and he's a martzeh in 3 places, and he also a very intelligent guy. And I left, and I moved here, and I took some of my savings. I bought a taxi. Ache. So I said, are you planning? He said, well, most of the things I do today, I do them on Zoom, on the internet. It's not really so important to me where I live. A lot safer here than where I was, but it's much prettier there. So I asked him, are you planning to go back? He didn't even understand, why would I do something stupid like that? He says, Yesh po mishu shechol amin bo? So my taxi driver tonight, and my taxi driver, I don't know, 15 years ago, or probably this guy is the son of that guy, I don't know exactly, but we're in the same place, right? That's where we are.
Wait, what was the answer?
He said, I can't go back because I can't trust the government.
No, he's not going to go back.
He said, unless something drastic changes, and if you need a taxi, I didn't take his car. What?
If Lebanon is flattened, he'll go back?
Could be. But he doesn't feel
Safe.
He doesn't feel, not only does he feel safe presently, he doesn't feel that the administration he can trust.
That's probably right.
That's what he said. He's entitled to his opinion.
But the other,
And I had to pay him for his opinion, you understand? When I got in a taxi.
but the other taxi driver was, he said, so let's like.
We said we're running away, and whatever we can get away with keeping, that's what we'll do.
Did you recommend that he get ways?
What?
Did you recommend he get ways?
I decided, must speak, I'm not gonna. But anyways, that's what
Well,
happened.
the government has to do this. We did it 7 years ago, 8 years ago, and the results were that hundreds of people were killed from those people. To do it again because it's a suffix of Vada, where are we coming to that from?
1 second. First, I can't listen. I can't answer the question. I can't answer the question. But forget what the Gedolim say. Are there people that officially are saying that they have a degree from a doctor that says that they're saying, you know what it means? The guy needs a degree from a doctor, they're saying, right? A degree from a doctor is saying that they're saying that they say that this is what we should be doing. So, I would say, you have an opinion, they have an opinion. I'm not here right now. The purpose of me being here right now isn't to create opinions. These are opinions on the floor. And there are Gedolim that were asked. You want to know how could I understand the Gedolim's conclusion? Yes. You want to know if I agree or I disagree? That's not the question over here.
I want to understand the Gedolim's position.
The position is that you know that these people, I want to do two things. Just want to make this a little bit clearer. This is not a very nice political thing to say right now. Forget the hostages. Let's say you could get all of them back. Should we do that? Gam lo pashut. Gam lo pashut. In other words, there are many people that would say, and even people in the have hostages there, their family are saying that you shouldn't give them back because, but let's say we get them all back. Did we sell ourselves down the river? So the question exists without the hostages. The hostages just make it more sobering.
What about the Maharm with the, where he said not to say Pidyon
I don't know the words you said at the beginning.
What about the Maharm about the Pidyon Shvuim?
Maharm. So okay, the answer to that question is that we're not speaking only about Pidyon Shvuim over here. There's again, my wife, she should be well, says always, you want to know what an Arab self-image is? Every Jew is worth how many Arabs? What's the Arab's opinion?
Usually 1 for 1,000.
Just want to know, right? But yes, so the question over here is, that's a Pidyon Shvuyin issue on a particular person. Then you have things when they happen on a national level, you don't always implement them the same way. You have to know.
But wasn't the concept there that he said?
That was the concept.
If you do it, it's going to encourage more.
Yeah. Again, this is where that's not the concept, and we run with the concept. The question is, when is it always applicable and how? In other words, we have ideas. I'll just quote to you from my favorite things in the Achronim. The Pri Chodesh in his Hakdama to his Sefer on Yeridea, he writes, when I'm cholik on my Rabbeim, it's only with the Torah that they taught me. You understand? In other words, there are these concepts, and then we have to know when do they apply them, when you don't apply them, when there are exceptions to the rule. And this is where life becomes very complicated. That's why you need navigation in these situations. This idea of the Maharm of Rotenberg is not new. I'm not the inventor of it. People already thought about this in relevance to the situation. But how does it plan out when you're speaking about great things? I'll just share with you something fascinating. It has nothing to do with the subject, but it's fascinating. There was a situation, and I'm not going to divulge any information on this subject, here in Ramat Beit Shemesh, of a question of a teacher abusing children. Okay? And I went together with another Rav here to try to go to the police to get the person suspended from their position, and the police were not helpful at all. And it became a very messy situation. In the middle of this, there was something which was bothering me. There's a certain aspect which was an important pivot in the discussion that I felt it didn't comply 100% with the Chafetz Chaim's halachas in Hilchos Lashon Hara. So I went to a world expert in Hilchos Lashon Hara, a renowned world expert. And I told him, this is a situation that I'm in. I would like to have the person lose their job. Am I allowed to do it? He said, 100%. So I said to him, what about chapter, line, and verse, this and this? Mazeh kashur. There's a shaila of a tzibur. Now, I'm saying you could walk away from here and say, when it's a gay tzibur, you could say Lashon Hara. Okay, just, so just using that as an example. There's sometimes when there's a tzibur, when there's all a Klal Yisrael, the big question becomes greater than even the source issue. And I'll just, on a halachic terms, I'll use the Gemara says, whoever knows what that means. And there's a mandiyava that says, so even though the concept of kal v'chomer and daya are almost diametrically opposed, sometimes you go with it, sometimes you go against it. So even though it's taken into cheshbon, okay?
Rav, as far as the possibility of sacrificing one Jewish life to save others, you often in the Beis Midrash, you often deal with theoretical situations. So the thought came into my mind now, let's suppose, theoretically, we could arrange a meeting between the Prime Minister here, the head of Iran, the head of Hezbollah, and all these things.
And where's Mashiach sitting when this is happening?
No, just theoretically. I just have it theoretically. Yeah. And we'd have this meeting and he'd discuss, how Israel would give back all the captives,
give back
give back land. But the security forces would plant within the Prime Minister an explosive device. So when he's sitting with all these Arab leaders, they'd blow him up and the whole lot of them would be blown up with him, like Shimshon bringing down the Philistine. And supposing we knew that would break would break their spirit totally, would it be mutter for us to do something like that? I know it's completely theoretical. But
this is a well-discussed subject in halacha. Well discussed. And I'll just show the last time that this was written about extensively. I'll first tell you the first time I was introduced to this question in the real world. There was somebody who worked in computers for a car company that was I'm telling you 20 years ago or 25 years ago, that this car was going to drive itself. Imagine that. Okay? And this car would be able to look into the car in front of him and see how many people are there. And if there's one person in that car and 5 people in this car, and the 5 people is only going into, it would divert and go into the one-person car to save the other person, to save the more people's lives. Are you allowed to develop such technology? This is the first time I was introduced to this. After that,
it's an old philosophical question.
Yeah, but this wasn't a philosophical question. This was a guy's parnasa to have to quit my job. That's not a philosophical question. That's a practical reality. I understand. Now, afterwards, there was a lot written about this, and there's a source in Navi that discusses this concept. If it's permissible, if you knew that there was a Jew on the plane that was going into the World Trade Center, would you be able to shoot it down and save the lives of 3,000 people, Kidei Isa and all the news clips of today, right? That wasn't the Bekias from history, right? Okay, so this is what? Who's the they?
No, it's a different they.
The people on the plane.
The people on the plane did it.
I understand. And not only that, I'll tell you even more. Just we'll end up with some smoky thought. I don't know if, since I'm speaking in English, I know that many of you are American. How many civilians were killed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
A lot.
Why?
100,000.
Because it's
Why?
killing them to end the whole
was the
war.
next-
Because it's going to save more lives.
Why not even say more than, but it ends the.
No, it ended the war.
It's over.
It
So,
ended the
but-
war. It ended the war.
I'm aware of that, right? So, but in other words, even in war, there are ethics where civilians are being able to be killed, and even those holy nations do that, right? So-
proportionality, that's what it's called.
That's a dirty word.
But that's
You
what
know, that's right now semantics, because this is just a question: is it negotiable or not? If you say proportionality, you say 1 in X, and he says 1 in Y. That's all. But once you say the idea is that it's permissible, then everybody has a right to decide where to put the marker. Then it's just my personal conscience.
What about
Geneva Convention.
what about when the Rav spoke to us about the idea of, he didn't like when I said the heroism of the guy who jumped on the grenade, but then you pointed out that it's like he was just simply the smartest guy in the room who was smart enough to hop that we're all dead unless someone does that.
Yeah,
so
so-
for that, given the months of the hostages where they are right now, I mean, my thinking was that once they were brought to Gaza, they're already dead. Just it's like the fact-
Pessimist.
No. And the reason why is because it's like because these guys are not like Fatah. They're not like Fatah. We know that already. So the point is that it's like they're already dead from.
I just want to know: are those ghosts that are going to be walking out tomorrow?
Well, no. That's not the
Some
point.
still-
That's not the point. They already.
I already know.
The point is, in other words, that Hamas already deposited a few of those people. It's like outside of the hospital and stuff like that. So the point is that, for the most part, if you're trying to speculate, in other words,
They all have to bench Goyim when they get out of there. Yeah, that's true. So that's
no. But the question is though, in other words, it's like then, if there's a greater preponderance that they are probably not all getting out. So then, in other words, it's like, why aren't we just simply going in to get them and rescue as many as we can, as opposed to sitting down to negotiations with people who are...
You're right now. This question is not halachic, not ashkafic. But I would just say, in my opinion, that idea is not realistic, because the minute that the Arabs think that they're going to be rescued, they will kill them. There's no... You're not going to... The only way you could do that is if you could do it without, you'd have to make a intebi.
But they said that they would execute them first if we entered Gaza. We entered Gaza. They didn't.
Well, they're keeping them as bargaining chips.
Of course. No, but the point is, since they're already shakranim,
So listen,
it doesn't matter.
Listen, I'm going to answer your question. This is not a hashkafa question, not that. What do you think that they're thinking? They think that they're winning the war. This is what I'm telling you right now. You can't wrap your brain about it, and they can prove to you. You have to, before you discuss it, you have to understand the mentality. They are winning the war. They're convinced, and not only that. All this bombing that we've been doing in the north, what percent of Gaza have we done? Do you know? Very less. Less than 25, if I'm not mistaken.
percent.
Yeah.
Wow.
So before you think that it's a shmeted in this one little guy in a little hole with a gun there, most of them are still around, viable, and they brought us to our knees. They didn't win the war. I'm not right now getting involved in that. What's called winning, right? But the bottom line is, COVID is very important
For them.
Perhaps, right? If they have no choice, and the last thing that they can do before they're killed is do something noble, perhaps they'll do it. There's a difference when it's the other guy who's being killed and they're eating caviar, or when they're going to be killed and the hostages are in front of them. You have to, before you even suggest such a thing, you would have to do a crash course of about 10 years in Arab mind to be able to second guess them. No, so I'm not. I didn't do it, and I don't profess to know, but I understand enough to know. And I'll just share with you the following story that happened with an Arab. A friend of mine who has Arab workers. For 2 weeks, an Arab worker didn't show up. This is not now. This is a while ago. 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And all of a sudden, he showed up. I said, "Where were you?" He said, "I was in hiding." He said, "Why were you in hiding?" He said, "Because I got into a fight with my brother-in-law and I killed him." Okay, now that's story number one that this guy told me. So now, now you're going to tell me how you would react, right? Okay. Now the next time he tells me another guy that somebody beat up his brother and cut him with a sakin yapani across the face, and he decided he's going to get this guy, and he met him somewheres, and he slashed him, good and well. Somebody saw him, called the cops, and they put him in jail for 5 years. And he calls his brother from jail, and he said it was worth it. Now,
He said what?
it was worth it. And just to give you a piece of Israeli society, so my friend asked him, "And how's your family being supported?" He says, "Well, bituach laumi." Good night.
Someone, Rob,